Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. And today I don't have a question, I have a statement. The Saints do not need a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. I've seen way too many Saints fans act like it's the end of the world if the Saints don't lose out so we can get like a top 5 pick in the upcoming draft. And I'm not sure what these fans are expecting. Maybe they want to grab a quarterback. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm assuming this is what we want, right? Derek Carr's not the future. Doesn't really matter who's coming out in the draft at quarterback this year. We just want to make sure we can grab one of them. Well, there's two consensus guys, Shadir Sanders and Cam Ward. They're the top two quarterbacks in the draft this year. I think you're going to need a top 3 pick, top 2 pick probably, or you're going to need some bargaining chips to move up to get one of those guys. Now, I'm not sold on either one of them as being this great future franchise quarterback. So I'm not willing to package anything to move up and to grab one of these guys. But I've seen a lot of people go nuts about it, including Nick Underhill for New Orleans Football. I hear him on T Bob's ESPN show this week saying, we're going to look back at this Giants game and we're going to point at this one, and this is going to be the one that we're going to look back at and shake our head and go, man, that's the one. That's the one we should have had. Well, we won the game. What he meant was, that's the one we should have lost. Beating the Giants was an awful thing because now that Derek Carr is injured, he may not play the rest of the year, so we may not win another game. And man, we're going to be one spot. We're going to end up with a really bad record and be one spot short of getting that quarterback. If we could have just lost to the Giants, everything would be great. Man, that kind of talk blows my mind. I can't believe that somebody that covers the Saints for a living would be saying these things out loud on a radio show, on ESPN radio. This is a game we won, and man, we're going to look back at this and go, golly, if we'd have just lost that game, then we could have Deion Sanders' kid or something like that. It drives me crazy. I mean, it's not like we're talking about Cooper Manning's kid. We're talking about Deion Sanders' kid. So I may be wrong. Shadir Sanders and or Cam Ward would might end up being great franchise quarterbacks. I might look back 5 years from now and go, man, I wish we would have lost to the Giants. I'm not saying that right now. Now, I know there's no future for this team this year, and I understand the mindset of lose out and get the best pick available. I understand that, but I just cannot wish failure on my favorite team. I just can't do it. And if I was covering the Saints, we could talk about it, but so realistically, now what I've been saying for weeks before Drew Brees took his leap of idiotic faith and came crashing down like your mother's favorite glass casserole dish. Nice landing there, Carr. He's probably out for the year. Even if he does come back, it'll be for the Raiders game. But look, the only way, in my opinion, that we're even beating the Raiders at this point is if Carr comes back. If we go the rest of the season without Carr, we're probably going to lose the rest of the games, meaning we're going to end up 5-12. And that's just not bad enough to get one of those quarterbacks. Because I'm pretty sure the Giants are going to have a worse record when it's all said and done. I'm pretty sure the Las Vegas Raiders are going to have a worse record when it's all said and done. I'm leaning towards Carolina having a worse record when it's all said and done. And then after that, maybe New England, maybe Tennessee. There's a chance Jacksonville and Cleveland are worse than us. But I believe we're going to end up, if Carr comes back, okay, 6-11. But if he doesn't come back, 5-12. I thought we'd finish 7-10 if everybody got healthy and managed to scrape a win against the Raiders and then catch one of these last three. Tampa Bay, and I figured we'd be 7-10. But yeah, I'm thinking now it's probably going to be more like 5-12, and it's still just not bad enough to get that top four, top five spot. That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, you are going to miss out on the quarterback by that much. By a win against the Giants, you're going to miss out on a draft pick. I ain't ever in my life. As bad as the Saints has been in my entire life, I've never sat there and said, God, I hope they lose. Because I know that no matter who you get in the top five of the draft, you can get a better player or a comparable player or a really good player anywhere in the draft. You just have to pick right. I'm not going to wish failure on my favorite team so that we can get the hopes of getting a quarterback. So I'm telling you, this is the way I think it's going to be. We don't win another game, we're still going to be pick six, maybe pick seven. So what are you going to do at that point? If you were running the Saints, would you package a bunch of picks, future picks, to move up a couple of spots to go and get that one player that you're missing out on because you just can't seem to lose enough games? So that's something I've been seeing with mock draft uh, simulators and people doing mock drafts lately. These simulators are nuts. Okay, so the one that most people use is Pro Football Focus. I don't use that one because I'm not subscribed. I can get a free 3-round mock every day going to PFF, but I can't do any trades or anything like that. And I let these mock simulators pick for the computer. And, the last couple of times I've done a mock on PFF. Now, the PFF is the one everyone talks about. It's just Trevor Sikkema's opinion. He changes his mind about somebody, boom, they change the ratings. And everybody's over there acting like this is the end all be all, and it's not. But I've done one 3-round mock on PFF every day, the free one, no trades. And lately I've seen Shadir Sanders fall all the way to the Saints. That's how PFF has everything organized. They think Sanders is the 16th overall rated player, and the computer doesn't pick based on team needs, it seems, as much as just whoever they have rated really high. So don't worry, Saints fans. If you want Shadir Sanders, according to PFF, you're going to get him with pick 8, pick 9, pick 10. I've drafted Shadir Sanders on the PFF boards a couple of times now. And of course, PFF gave me a bad rating for it because they expected me to grab, whatever the position is that they think's more important than quarterback. Okay, so I think Travis Hunter is probably the best player in the draft. I think he should go number one overall, regardless of what your team's looking for. I don't think the quarterbacks are so good that you pass up on certain other players. I think Ashton Genty's one of the best running backs to come out in a while, and whoever gets him is going to get a stud. He might still be on the board when the Saints pick. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. So I'm just going to end this video by saying, here's the proof I have that you don't need a top 10 pick. First, I'm going to pull up the list, and I've done this in my big draft video or post draft or past drafts for the Saints. I did a big 40-minute video talking about a brief history of the Saints picking in the top 10. But this is it in a nutshell right here. All right, that's the 9 players we've drafted in the top 10 in the last 43 years since 1981. We've had pick in the top 10 9 times, and that's the results. You look at that list right there, and you see a bunch of really good players. You see a couple of players that could have been franchise-defining players. And then you see one player that really worked out well for us. Willie Roaf, 1993, 8th overall pick, ends up being a Hall of Famer. But everybody else on that list, you can get comparable somewhere else. Yeah, we had some great players. George Rogers, the only first overall pick the Saints have had in the last 43 years. And I believe he stayed on the team 4 years before we traded him, 3 years before we traded him, something like that. So I wouldn't call that a home run at all. Reggie Bush with the second overall pick, he was a great piece for the Saints. And he was a big part of why we had so much early success with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. But just remember, Reggie Bush, the X factor. He wasn't the number one pound and ground guy. We had Pierre Thomas, we had Bell, we had a bunch of running backs. But what we used Reggie Bush for, this second overall pick, when he finally left, you remember who we replaced him with? Darren Sproles, who wasn't a second overall pick. Darren Sproles, we pick up in free agency, and he ends up being the all-time all-purpose, single-season all-purpose yardage leader. He comes in and takes our number 2 overall pick's place and immediately becomes the all-purpose yardage leader single season in history on the offense that ended up being the greatest offense of all time, right? As far as yards and all that goes. So I'm just saying, you think picking in the top 10 is this great thing. How come Darren Sproles did what Reggie Bush wanted to do so much better than Reggie Bush? Darren Sproles wasn't the second overall pick. How about Ricky Williams, fifth overall pick? You had to trade all of your draft picks away for that. Man, Mike Ditka was our coach for 3 years, and he had a top 10 pick in all 3 years. He got that one at number 5 by trading all of our other picks away. Ditka drafted Ricky Williams. He went and played golf, and a year later he was fired, going 3-13. Awful. And just look at the rest of the list. I mean, Jim Dombrowski was a great guard. I say that one was a home run, but not Jonathan Sullivan, not Cedric Ellis, not Kyle Turley, and not Chris Naoli either. So I wouldn't be clamoring for a top 10 pick. As a matter of fact, that's all the top 10 picks we've had in the last 43 years. Well, let's take one more quick look at the greatest players in Saints history by position. And there they are, in my opinion, but they're pretty damn close to the best at each position in franchise history if you don't agree with these specifically. And that's the round and the pick that those players were taken. Leroy Glover, fifth round pick by the Raiders. I mean, what are you going to do? We've got 3 first round picks in this list of the greatest Saints of all time. You got 3 first round picks and only one of them in the top 10. It may be circumstantial. It may just be whatever to you. This is what I've got to offer, though. Those are the greatest players in Saints history, and only 3 of them were first round picks. Only one of them was a top 10 pick. So that's all I've got to say on this. I wanted to make a quicker video to get my point out. I feel like I'm the only person here that feels this way. I'm not going to wish failure on my favorite team. I want my team to win every game. And if we end up with the 16th, 17th, or 18th overall pick, oh well. I guess we'll just have to draft Cam Jordan, instead of whoever it is, Chase Young. So think about it that way. Chase Young was the second overall player. Cameron Jordan was the 24th overall player. Not in the same draft, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You can get Wayne Martin with the 15th, 16th, 17th overall pick. Yeah, I'm not going to cry in my oatmeal because of that. All right. There's plenty of players in this draft worth getting. One more thing, I saw someone do a mock draft and they kept talking about how the Saints have all these extra picks now that we traded away Marshawn Lattimore and picked up an extra 3 and an extra 4, that we should package all those picks and move up in the draft. Is that why we got rid of Marshawn Lattimore? Is that why we traded him and picked up extra picks so we could package all of that just to go get one guy? This guy decided to package our picks and move up 3 spots in the first round so we can go get edge rusher Abdul Carter out of Penn State, a 245-pound dude. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind having that edge rusher on passing downs to go after the quarterback. We need to affect the quarterback. Did I trade away Marshawn Lattimore and then eventually a first round pick next year plus, a second next year up and the 3 and the 4 that we just picked up to move up 3 spots and to go get Abdul Carter? Man, that's not the way to rebuild the the roster, not quickly anyway. I mean, Abdul Carter is going to end up having to be the greatest player in Saints history to justify all this junk. So it drove me crazy. I didn't have a lot to talk about. You know, we're in a pretty weird time right now with the Saints. We just beat the Giants and everybody's acting like we have the worst team ever. I heard Nick Underhill say that this is the worst of times right now. We've gone 3-1 in the last 4 games, but this is the worst of times. I know you're stuck. You're stuck in in the middle of a rock and a hard place. You're like, well, I'm not good enough to win any games, but I'm not bad enough to get a top 10 pick. You don't need a top 10 pick to have a successful franchise. I think this team is going to need 2 to 3 years to rebuild. And I think what you need are good, cheap players on your team. That way, when you reset the salary cap in a couple of years, you're going to have a lot of money to work with and a lot of good, cheap players on your roster. That's the way I'm looking at it. Don't know if you feel the same way I do or not, but that's what I got. Leave your comments down low and let me know what you think. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. And I'll be doing more videos pondering the future of this team. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?